Hey you guys, welcome back and thanks for coming back to my channel. Please forgive me, I'm looking a little bit rough right now. I have been getting sick all week and I've been taking my airborne and vitamins and all that stuff, but if anybody really knows me, knows that I get pretty sickly pretty often, and this is my first, I guess, fall season in my new area after being in Texas for the last 5 years. So I also have plans this weekend to go out with some friends, and I kind of had to cancel because I've just been feeling like crap. So like I put on enough makeup to make myself presentable, but I as you can see, I'm looking rough. I'm feeling rough. So, but anyways, that's unimportant. I wanted to share with you guys some of the stuff that I got in the mail this week because I think it's some really cool nerdy type stuff, and I will comment the links to those places where I got them in the comments below. So first off, I got this really cute Winter Soldier bow, and I guess I could just, oh, if you guys do a search online, I'm sure it'll come up pretty easily. I will, like I said, I will put a link in the information below so you guys can go straight there, but it's so cute. I love it. And also, from another store on Etsy, I got this really cool Batman purse. Yay! Yay for nerdy stuff. Yay! I personally don't like gigantic, like, bags, suitcase type bags, pretty much. I like these little small ones that just fit my wallet and my phone because I'm a very simple person and I don't need too much. So this is the perfect size for me. It's super cute. I think I need to wash it because the person I got it from, I think, is a smoker, which isn't a problem, but you know, since I don't smoke and I have Wolverine sense of smell, I'm hypersensitive to it, so I'm gonna give it a wash. It is fabric, so it is washable. Anyways, also at work, this isn't mail call really, but I found this pack at work, and ta-da! Why would I not get this, right? There I am. There I am. Anyways, and then it came in the mail yesterday. Yay! This has been out for a while, but anybody who knows me knows that I have a personal affinity to this particular storyline, and this particular version of Bucky is the one that I dress up as because it's a very personal story to me, and I feel like it's even better because the writer that I know, Jason Latour, it was very personal to him too. I'm not going to go into his personal business, but okay, so on to Secret Wars. I know Secret Wars is Marvel's big event going on right now. It's supposed to change the status quo. There are some people that are all for it and have been keeping up and have been liking it very much. There are others that are kind of over the big two, over superhero comics in general, and I don't find anything wrong with that. But I just feel like, you know, I've seen read a lot of people online like bashing it and having never read any of it, and that's what I don't agree with, is how can you choose to hate something if you haven't given it a try? And granted, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people who did give it a try, it's just not for them. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would like to bring some of the titles that you wouldn't normally think of to read to people's attention, because I have been pleasantly surprised with what's been going on. And stuff that I would have never read before is some of my favorite books from this event. So, to give a quick rundown of what this event is, a couple years ago when Marvel had kind of like, I guess like a relaunch, I wouldn't call it a reboot. I know those terms can be interchangeable, but basically what the breakdown is a reboot is wiping everything fresh, starting from scratch, which is what some companies have done in the past. I'm not gonna bad talk anybody because, like I said, I've seen good sides from all of it. Anyways, Marvel relaunched their line where they wanted to bring in new readers, but not dismiss the people who have been there for all the years before. So basically, they kind of did a mix-up of the two sides of the house. So everybody that was writing Avengers and everybody that was writing X-Men kind of traded places for the time being. So Jonathan Hickman had this idea where he wanted to start it off with his book, New Avengers with the Illuminati, and basically it had to do with, there were bits and pieces of it here and there where people were messing with the timelines and the infinite universes, and maybe they shouldn't have, because that's never a good thing, because, you know, the whole butterfly effect and everything has consequence, and if you go change things, you don't know what the repercussions will be. Well, one of those repercussions is that of all the infinite universes, the universes will kind of converge, for lack of a better term, and they will come together, and it will come to a point where the superheroes or the people, just the two different worlds need to duke it out, and whoever left standing gets to continue to exist, and the other universe is destroyed. The crux of this is, if they come together and they do nothing, then they're both destroyed. So this has been going on for the last few years, and like I said, you've seen hints of it with the Ultimate Universe, the 616, which is Marvel proper, basically, you know, the crossovers for, what was it? I'm sorry, Spider-Man, and you've seen hints of it with, sorry, my dogs are going crazy. You've seen hints of it with the all-new X-Men, where they brought back the First Class, the original X-Men from their timeline. So this has all kind of been in play and working up to this point for a while. So, fast forward to today. Secret Wars is basically where all the worlds have come together, and Doom has deemed himself Lord God over everything that's left, which is now called Battle World, where you get like a mishmash. Like each universe has its own little, I guess, like self-contained bubble on Battle World. So you're getting to see things that come together that wouldn't normally come together, like Marvel Zombies and Age of Ultron, like all these weird little things that you get to see. The 90s cartoon X-Men have their own series. It's a really cool idea. Basically, it's kind of like a relaunch, a reimagining when it will all be said and done, but the way it is like it's changing the status quo, and I think that it's gonna be doing a good job, because where we have had Steve Rogers as the Captain America for so long, it's now gonna be Falcon. They recently killed off Wolverine, spoiler alert, and so now X-23, my favorite character, is going to be coming in and taking up the mantle of Wolverine, and she's going to be the new Wolverine for the time being. There is still Old Man Logan, but it's not, the teams aren't the way that they have been in so many years, which I think is great, because one of my biggest problems with these superhero companies is that when there is a change made that's really serious, i.e. killing off a main character, they don't really stick with it for too long, and I can't see into the future, so I don't know what will come of this, but for right now, I'm really liking that everything that happens seems to, like, matter. I don't feel like they're gonna do this Secret Wars and change everything, and all of a sudden, like that, just bring it all back to the way it was, because I think that's kind of, I think everybody's been a little bit tired of that. Like I said, I can't see into the future, so if they go back to the way things were, I think they'll handle it in a good way, but you know. So my purpose here is to bring to attention some of the books that you wouldn't normally pay attention to. I mean, I know people are going to be paying attention to the main books, like the Avengers books, the X-Men books, all that stuff that is going on with those, but I think there are some other really great stories that are coming out of this that aren't your typical superhero book, and I feel like they're going unnoticed because they don't have the big names behind them. So my first book up for discussion is 1872. It's kind of a Western. It's not the type of thing that I normally get into, but I feel like it's so different and it's so interesting that I'm absolutely loving it. I was completely shocked, not expecting to care about it, but it's probably one of my favorite books that's come out of Secret Wars. Basically, we have the old-time West, and I don't want to give too much away because I want you guys to read it. Steve Rogers is, of course, the sheriff, which makes sense, and he's dealing with Kingpin is the main person in charge, the mayor of this town, and he has, like, Bullseye, Elektra, all these less than ideal types working for him and enforcing his brand of justice. But, you know, good old Cap wants to uphold liberty and justice and whatnot, so basically it's all of them against him. And the townspeople are afraid of Kingpin, and so they kind of stay out of his way, and since Cap is only Cap, a lot of the stuff happens, and he's the only one standing up for what's right, and, you know, they turn a blind eye pretty much. So, a character that's been around in the Marvel Universe for a while, but we haven't seen in a while, is Red Wolf, and he is a Native American, and he is to be hung by some of the people that are aligned with Kingpin, but Cap comes through and he wants him to stand trial for whatever he supposedly has done, because they're pretty much being the judge, jury, and executioner, and he hasn't gone to a proper trial. So Cap, out of, you know, his sense of duty, he rescues Red Wolf from this group before they can do what they want to him. He puts him up in his jail for protection for a while, and, you know, obviously Kingpin finds out about that and isn't too thrilled. So what ensues next is a lot of very interesting twists and turns. So I like this because it's an alternate reality type story, which I'm a sucker for. It's cool to see Steve Rogers in his typical role, but in a different timeline and slightly different from how he is. Kingpin, of course, is causing trouble. We have Tony Stark is in the story, but Tony Stark has very characteristically turned to alcohol to deal with some of the guilt that he has for creating such a devastating weapon. So it's just really cool to see how all that plays in. My next book up for discussion is Where the Monsters Dwell. This is another book that was not necessarily on my radar because I know this book had existed before, but I did not know anything of its previous iteration, just that it existed. What I can tell you is this book is completely crazy, wild, a ton of fun, lots of humor in it. Definitely something you wouldn't normally see from Marvel, but I think that's why I'm kind of enjoying it for what it is at this point in time during Secret Wars. It's about World War I era pilot Karl Kaufman. The war has ended, and he is kind of like Malcolm Reynolds, where he takes on these tasks to make money basically for himself, and his alignment is somewhat ambiguous. Like, he doesn't do things on the side of good and he doesn't do things on the side of evil. He's just kind of an opportunist for himself. So he meets Clementine, this mysterious Rosie the Riveter type. She kind of, actually, I take that back, because she kind of plays ditzy at first, and, you know, he thinks that he can get over on her, and since he's a womanizer the way he is, he kind of is just like, whatever, this floozy. So he takes a job from her and they go flying off, but are run into pterodactyls out of nowhere, and they crash their plane into the middle of the ocean. They don't know where they are, but they end up on this island with some Amazonian type women. They don't really say too much. They do understand, they know different languages, they're actually pretty intelligent, but like they don't feel the need to talk to this guy because they see men as lesser status to them. So basically the humor to this story is it's kind of like a role reversal type thing, especially for the time being after World War One. Instead of women being oppressed, these women have taken over this island, and they are, you know, fully capable. And there are men that have come to try and conquer, but it hasn't turned out too well for them. The ones that are of good stock and able-bodied are kept in dungeons, and they are kept for their seed procreation reasons. The ones that are not up to the women's standards are pretty much killed off, systematically killed off. So it's kind of funny because Kaufman, this typical womanizer from back then, he is outraged because men shouldn't be treated this way and blah 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 blah. So all kinds of craziness ensues, and he makes an attempt to get off this island, and I really can't wait to see how the story ends because it's so crazy, so wild, so far-fetched that I cannot predict where it's going. So I'm absolutely loving this book. It's not very superhero-y. I can't really say that, you know, I'm influenced by previous Marvel titles or anything. It's just a really good, funny story. And I highly recommend it to somebody who just wants to read an all-out, funny, fun book. The third book I'm going to talk about is Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde. I wasn't really expecting to like this book as much as I did, as well, just like the other titles, but it's another book that's just a ton of fun. It does have to do with some well-known characters. Of course, Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde. Drax is in it. There's a reference to Rocket Raccoon. Gambit's in it. But it's not the way that you know them. It's much, much more silly than that. Sam Humphries writes it. I absolutely love his sense of humor, and there's more of it here. His sense of humor is very apparent in this. Basically, when the worlds converged, again, for lack of a better term, Star-Lord survived the incursion, and his fiancée, Kitty Pryde, was killed off. So, understandably so, he's very distraught about this, but now he's found himself on this new world, and it's kind of weird because most of the people on Battleworld aren't self-aware as far as they don't know anything before Battleworld, so they don't think that anything else existed. So the Star-Lord of this world, very funny so, is a lounge singer, and he works for Drax, who has this crazy pompadour hairdo, and he's not like the Drax that we're used to. He's, you know, fast-talking and cutting jokes and all that stuff, and Star-Lord starts off singing some Aladdin songs, and everybody goes wild, and it's just the greatest thing because this is the first they've ever heard of it. They think that he's a genius, that he's come up with this amazing stuff, but he, you know, borrowed the idea, I suppose. So he's there in the lounge, and their version of Kitty Pryde comes in to strike in a deal with Gambit, who is their world's collector. It's very interesting because, of course, Peter immediately recognizes Kitty, and he goes to seek her out, messes up the deal between her and Gambit, drama ensues, and Kitty doesn't know who he is, so it's very funny because that's the love of his life, and she's just kind of like, who the hell are you? Another cute little detail is there's another version of Kitty Pryde that's pretty obscure. I don't expect everybody to know, but Widget makes an appearance in this comic, and it's pretty ridiculous, and I love it. It works. It's just more great Sam Humphries humor, kind of like Gas Check, which is, as I have posted on my page before, one of my favorite one of his creations of all time, because it's just his ridiculousness. I don't know how his brain comes up with it, but then again, I'm not surprised coming from a guy who dresses up as Prince, which is pretty freaking rad. It's sort of a rom-com, I suppose, but which is not my cup of tea at all in any way, shape, or form. But I don't know. I can't explain. There's something about this. The story is very charming. The characters and their interactions. I don't know. It just struck a chord with me. It was great. I absolutely loved it. So please, yes, if you are a fan of Kitty or Star-Lord, or you do like the romantic comedies, please pick up this book. So my final book that I'm going to talk about is one that I was interested in because I didn't know how they were going to touch on such an iconic story and make it different yet interesting. I am, of course, talking about Civil War. Wow. I love this book. I love this. It's great. It's fun. It's not finished yet. There's one more issue, and I can't wait to see how it ends. Basically, it's Civil War as if Cap wasn't killed off. Civil War hasn't really ended. It's very, very interesting. The alignments are not quite what you would expect. Peter Parker is Cap's right-hand man, and Bucky Barnes is Tony's right-hand man, which is very interesting. So basically, they had, during their Civil War in their timeline, they had a huge fight in the prison, and a self-destruct was set, and they had to use Cloak to get everybody out of there. Basically, since Cloak was not fast enough to get everybody out in time, he does get as many people as he can, but when they come out on the other side, he takes the explosion with him, and it destroys, like, a whole mess of stuff. And both sides are still blaming each other because it's not really clear who initiated the self-destruct. There are people on both sides that are blaming each other as far as Tony and Cap. So now Civil War is still kind of going on. It's kind of at a lull, but it's the country has been split right down the middle. So they have Tony's side, which is more organized, has like a working government system and whatnot, and they're the Iron, which is the East Coast. And then the West is appropriately just like the Wild Wild West. There's not much. It's very open and free. I don't know if I would call it anarchy, but I mean, basically, if you live good lives, then the government won't come down on you, and they won't micromanage and spy and try to control everything you do. It's a lot more free, but it's a lot more open. It's not as refined as Tony's side. I'm sorry, the name of Cap's side is called the Blue, which is also appropriate. So, the story here picks up where Miriam Sharp, she has chosen to build a bridge connecting the two as a symbol, the two sides, the Iron and the Blue, and she lives right in the middle of this bridge, and kind of a symbol as she still has hope that they can come together and become unified. Very noble idea, all that good stuff, but she sits down with Cap and Tony, and they want this war to end just as much as she does. They're tired of being separate, and the war wasn't really their idea. The separation wasn't really their idea. It kind of got out of hand, and it became a bigger issue than just them. Miriam is a kind of a mediator, calls them into her home so that they can discuss becoming unified. And not to get too much into it, she is assassinated, but it's not quite clear which side has done it, because there are things pointing to at either side, at either person. So basically it's about them trying to figure out who's responsible for her death and trying to figure out a way to make this war come to an end, whether it be unification or it be complete annihilation. There are a lot of twists and turns. There were a couple things I didn't see coming. There are some that I there was one big reveal that I thought was kind of a cop-out, but it doesn't hinder the story too much. It happens, you're like, nah, but then there's still an issue left, so you don't know what's gonna come of everything, and it's still really interesting. I love it. I find it really interesting that, you know, to see Peter Parker as Cap's right-hand man and see him so militant. He kind of reminded me of Falcon because he has his red and blue-ish suit, but then he's got wings like Falcon, which is kind of interesting. Of course, seeing Bucky aligned with Tony is kind of interesting because, you know, Cap's his boy. But if you see it from his side, which he does explain, it does make sense. He's just trying to be a good soldier, which I can understand that very much, and I can appreciate that he's doing what he thinks is best given the situation, and his only motivation is to preserve the way of life that he feels is the best, and for the people. The stories that I brought up, you don't really have to know anything about the Marvel Universe prior or what's going to happen next to be able to pick these up and read them. They're their own self-contained standalone stories, which is why I so highly recommend them. There are also the ones that play into the bigger part of the Marvel Universe and go along with the storyline, that the long-form story that they have planned, but you know, it's hard to keep up sometimes. So thank you for listening to me ramble on about these, and if you want to talk more comics or get other recommendations for me, please hit me up, let me know. If you want to hear me talk more about Secret Wars and some of the other bigger books, maybe, I would gladly go into that for my next video. If not, if this quick video suffices for as much as you guys want to know about Secret Wars, I feel like it's a pretty good time. Next video that I make, I'm going to be talking about the Valiant universe. I know a few people that are going to be pretty excited about that. I think it's very important to talk about early because Bloodshot is going to be Valiant's first movie in 2017, I think is when it comes out. And I feel like it's important that people get an idea of the universe before it comes out so that they're not lost. So thanks for stopping by, and I will see you guys next time.